Hi there. Today's video for our next project is a little different. As you can see, I'm in our classroom. The teachers are all in this week to start to prep our rooms for the summer. So if you told me that you wanted your art projects back, I'm going through and sorting those so that you can get those and they can be returned to you. If you did not fill out that survey question, please do so that if you want your artwork, I can make sure that you get it. Now for this week's project, we are going to be doing some toy photography. And this is an actual thing that a lot of real photographers have put out online. They've become really popular. So I'm going to go ahead and show you some examples and let you create your own toy photographs. Okay, let's talk about our toy photography project. Toy photography is using inanimate objects to create the feeling of movement and emotion. Toys can be used to create images that tell a larger story. These often involve taking close-up shots and moving around your setting to gain better viewpoints and change perspectives. There are a lot of well-known toy photographers. This is an example by Mitchell Wu, who has used Rafiki holding up Simba to look like he is sacrificing Simba to this creature. This is John Felipe Delberg. And this is an image of Spider-Man that's got this really awesome shadow that's being cast. It makes it look like he's climbing down by this laptop. That's really cool. Daniel Chung is an artist who uses a lot of different materials to create his images. So this has some Star Wars Stormtrooper action figures mixed with Lego pieces, and it looks like they're teaching a very young Darth Vader how to ride a bicycle. So they've used just a few simple props, but they're able to tell a really great story here. And what's successful is that the background really adds to the story, because you can tell that they're outdoors. It looks like it could be a realistic setting, but the area behind the toys is so blurry that you can't tell what it is. So it just looks like they're in some outdoor environment. We'll talk about how to create this effect in a minute. Johnny Wu is another fantastic toy photographer. I love this one of the Stormtrooper just chilling out on a raft, on his day off in the middle of this lake. I think this is really fantastic. Creates a peaceful mood when it's really a photograph of a Stormtrooper action figure. All of these are really awesome toy photographers. I really recommend that you Google some of these artists and check out all their bodies of work. They have tons and tons of really awesome photographs, so please check them out for some awesome inspiration. So let's talk about how to create that effect where your subject is in focus but your background is blurry. This is called a shallow depth of field. What this does is makes your subject stand out, and it makes the background less distracting. Now there are a couple of ways that you can create this effect depending on what you're using. If you're using an actual DSLR camera, you can change the aperture to the lowest f setting. That's the depth of field. The f-stop will adjust that setting for you. If you're using your phone, often your phone will adjust the focus. If you place it really close to the toy that you're photographing, it will often automatically blur the background if it's, an inch or so away from the subject. If your phone has a portrait mode, that feature will automatically create a shallow depth of field. So if you choose that, it will keep your subject in focus and blur your background. If you have an iPhone, you can also click on the screen on the area that you want to be in focus. So put your camera where you want it, set up the toys, or the background, whatever you're going to do. Once it's ready, if you click on a part, it will focus on that and blur everything else. If you have a different piece of equipment, you can also Google how to create a shallow depth of field with whatever you have that you're using. I think this is a really wonderful one by Christina Alexanderson. This is again a Stormtrooper, if you notice a theme here. That looks like they've been left on this foreign planet and they're taking a walk. It's obviously on a curb in a street, but I think it's a beautiful photograph again with a really shallow depth of field. So not only do I want you to create an image that tells some kind of story, but I'd like you to try an artistic technique called forced perspective. So this is where you can create the optical illusion that some things are larger or smaller than they actually are by placing them closer or farther away from the camera. So in this example by the artist Wire Han, he's made it look like the Hulk is talking to him in his backyard, when in reality, this is a Hulk action figure that's standing on the ground about 15 or 20 feet away from him. And the camera is placed on the ground very close to the Hulk action figure. And because the camera is looking up at the Hulk, right, the camera's from what we call a worm's eye view, where it's low on the ground and it's aimed upwards, and because it's only an inch or two away from the Hulk, while the rest of the figures in the setting is farther away, it makes it look like that the Hulk and this man are talking and they're in the same space. It makes it look like the Hulk is just, 12 feet tall, when in reality he's, a 6-inch action figure. That's really, really, really cool effect that you can create just by where you place your subject in relation to the camera. I think the most popular version of forced perspective is if you ever see photos that tourists take when they visit the Leaning Tower of Pisa and they stand with their hands up like they're, holding up the tower. That's forced perspective, where the tower is 100 yards away and the people are very close to the camera. And all it is about lining up the person's hands with the building that's in the background. And that creates the effect that they're pushing on it. So I would like you to try to create your own forced perspective image. Here's a really great one by Brian McCarty, where he has this girl on a bike toy, and he's placed her in the road with a real car with a person in it far away down the street, but the angle of the photograph makes it look like, right, that the car is chasing this girl, when in reality they're very far away. A lot of this comes with trial and error. Again, the camera needs to be down on the ground so it's at the level of the toy. So, this is going to mean, sitting on the floor or sitting in the dirt, or the street outside. Please be careful if you're in the street, safety first. But a lot of this is all about the angle of the camera. So it takes some trial and error. I recommend that you take a few photos before choosing, the one that you're going to use. So I want you to decide which toy or toys you're going to use for your project and think about the location. Right, the background is really important. If the background is too distracting, it'll draw a focus from your subject. And if the background doesn't make sense, it's going to be really distracting. If your toy is in the kitchen, but it's not doing anything related to a kitchen, that's not going to make any sense. So really think about where your toy is in relation to your background. Think about what kind of action they could be doing. Is there a prop they could interact with? Something that could be funny? Is it serious? Is it sad? Whatever you want to do. So then you want to set up your scene. Think about lighting. You want to make sure it's not too dark for your image. So if you need to use a lamp or something, make sure you're able to do that. Get close to your toys and be down on their level. Just like taking a photograph of your friend, you want the camera to be at the height of the subject. I would try taking some photos from a few different angles, especially from the toy's point of view. You need to take at least one story or action photo, which we looked at in the beginning, and at least one forced perspective photo, and submit both of them to the Google Classroom. So you should be submitting 2 photos. If you want to do more than that, you please do. They're a ton of fun, so that's entirely up to you. All right, here's an example of an action or story photo that I took in my classroom. Here I have my Captain America action figure and my Hulk action figure, and they're in the bins from our class period cabinet. I've emptied and cleaned them all out, so now they're ready to be photographed. So here I have the Hulk popping out of a bin and startling Captain America. In this photo, Captain America is closer to the camera, so he appears larger. The Hulk's a little bit farther away, and they're overlapping. And if you notice, Captain America's left hand is blurry. That's because I wanted to make sure that the Hulk was in focus. So I clicked on the Hulk on my iPhone, and it made sure that he was clearly in focus. These I set up on a sidewalk in front of my house. So there's some pavement on the ground and then some bushes in the background, but it's generic enough that this could really be kind of anywhere. So here again I have Darth Vader in the foreground, and my phone is very, very close to him, and the Hulk is only about 2 inches away from him. It looks a lot farther in this photo. So this is an example of forced perspective because it appears as though the Hulk is far away when he's really very, very close to them. Again, I clicked on the Hulk to make sure he was in focus. And I, wanted to make sure I set up something interesting. You could see Darth Vader's hand doing a force choke and all that. In this image, I also have the Hulk about to smash these giant boulders. Now this I took outside. The boulders are actually very small pebbles that I found on the ground, but they're almost sitting against the camera lens of my phone, while the Hulk toy is a few inches behind them. And the perspective of this looking up at those rocks and the Hulk makes him appear that he's gigantic. So I hope you have a lot of fun with these, and I can't wait to see what you make. Hi, it's me again. I am doing a little social experiment, and I'd like to see which of my students actually watch my whole video. So if you watched this video, when obviously if you're seeing this, you watched it, send me a message on this week's assignment and tell me what type of cookie is your favorite. For me, it's gotta be a classic chocolate chip. If you answer it and you tell me which cookie is your favorite, you'll get extra credit. Don't share this with the others. I wanna see who really watches it. I hope you're doing well. Have a great weekend. I know I said weekend, it's a whole week. Whatever.